There's a place hidden deep in the woods of Willow Creek. A place no one dares to speak of, let alone visit. They say it's cursed, that those who enter never return the same, if they return at all. Tonight we unravel the dark secrets of the haunted cabin, a place where shadows come alive and the past refuses to stay buried. Nestled deep in the shadowy heart of Willow Creek Forest, an abandoned cabin stood alone, its weathered walls whispering secrets of a bygone era. The air around it seemed perpetually still, heavy with an unnatural silence that even the chirping of crickets avoided. No one ventured there, not since the tragedy of 1978. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the disappearances, the chilling screams that once echoed through the woods, and the strange lights that flickered in the windows when the cabin was supposed to be empty. When Emma and her friends stumbled upon the dilapidated cabin during a weekend hiking trip, they felt both drawn to and repelled by its eerie aura. Emma, a curious journalist with a knack for uncovering the macabre, couldn't resist the pull. Her friends, Jake, a skeptic, and Lily, a sensitive soul with an affinity for the paranormal, reluctantly followed her lead. The trio pushed open the creaking wooden door, the sound piercing the unnatural stillness like a scream in the void. The interior was cloaked in darkness, the faint scent of mildew mingling with something older, more metallic. Dust motes danced in the beam of their flashlights as they stepped into the cabin. The room was sparse, with only a rotting sofa, an overturned table, and a fireplace blackened by years of soot. Yet, it felt alive, as if the walls themselves were watching, breathing. As Emma wandered deeper, she noticed symbols carved into the wooden beams. They were ancient, indecipherable, and seemed to pulse faintly when her flashlight passed over them. "This place gives me the creeps," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Jake rolled his eyes, but even his skepticism seemed shaky now. Emma found an old journal half buried under a pile of leaves near the hearth. Its leather cover was damp, the pages yellowed and brittle. As she flipped through, the scrawled entries grew darker, descending into madness. They spoke of shadows that moved on their own, of whispers that came from the walls, and a figure in the woods with hollow eyes. Suddenly a loud thud echoed from upstairs, freezing them in place. "Probably just an animal," Jake muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. Emma, emboldened by her curiosity, led the way up the narrow staircase, which groaned under their weight. The upstairs was worse. The walls were covered in claw marks, and the floorboards were warped as if scorched. At the end of the hall was a door, slightly ajar, revealing a faint orange glow. As they approached, a low guttural growl resonated from within, followed by the sound of something heavy dragging across the floor. Lily begged them to leave, her eyes wide with terror, but Emma pushed the door open. The room was empty, save for a mirror that stood on an ornate wooden frame. Its surface rippled like water, reflecting not their faces, but the shadowy figure described in the journal. It stood still, staring at them with hollow, glowing eyes. The mirror cracked with a deafening shatter, and the figure stepped through. Chaos erupted. The cabin came alive, groaning and shifting as if the wood itself were writhing in agony. Shadows leaped from the walls, taking forms that whispered unintelligible threats. The friends ran, but the cabin seemed endless, its hallways twisting and multiplying. Lily screamed as a shadow grabbed her, pulling her into the floorboards, her cries echoing as she vanished. Jake and Emma fought to escape, but the figure from the mirror was relentless, its hollow eyes following them, its twisted limbs reaching out. Finally, Emma found herself back in the main room, clutching the journal. Desperate, she hurled it into the fireplace, setting it alight. The shadows recoiled, their forms flickering and disintegrating as the flames consumed the pages. The cabin groaned one final time, then fell silent. When the sun rose, only Emma and Jake remained, their faces pale, their eyes haunted. They never spoke of what happened, but the town noticed how Emma never returned to her journalism, and Jake avoided the woods entirely. The cabin still stands, its windows dark and silent. But if you listen closely on a quiet night, you might hear the faint echo of screams carried on the wind. Some say the cabin remains a gateway, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin. Others believe it feeds on fear, luring the curious only to trap them forever. But one thing is certain: whatever lurks inside is waiting for its next visitor. The year was 1872, and the Atlantic stretched vast and impenetrable, a blue canvas where man and nature waged their quiet, eternal struggle. Far from any shore, on December 5th, the brigantine Dei Gratia sliced through the cold waters, her crew vigilant and watchful. The winds were favorable, but an uneasy calm hung in the air, a prelude perhaps to something unnatural. Late in the afternoon, a cry went up from the lookout perched high in the mast. "Ship ahead!" The call brought Captain David Morehouse to the deck. Through his spyglass, he studied the vessel on the horizon. Her sails were slack and unevenly set, flapping in the light breeze like abandoned flags. She appeared adrift, her motion dictated not by human hands, but by the whims of the ocean. The ship was the Mary Celeste, a name Morehouse recognized immediately. He had dined with her captain, Benjamin Briggs, weeks before in New York. They had exchanged plans, wished each other good fortune. The Mary Celeste was bound for Genoa, carrying a small crew of 10, including Briggs's wife Sarah and their young daughter Sophia. But now, the Mary Celeste drifted aimlessly, her lifeboat missing, her crew nowhere to be seen. Curiosity, tinged with dread, drove Morehouse and a small boarding party to row across the swell to the silent vessel. As they drew closer, they called out, "Ahoy! Mary Celeste! Anyone aboard?" The only answer was the moaning wind and the slap of waves against her hull. The party climbed aboard, their boots echoing ominously against the wooden deck. The ship was in an eerily pristine state, as if abandoned only moments before. The sails were weathered but functional. The rigging hung loose, swaying slightly in the breeze. The hold was dry. The cargo, 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, securely stowed. Below deck, the air was stale, but carried no scent of decay or disaster. They found no signs of life. In the galley, food had been laid out, but the plates and cups sat undisturbed, now gathering a thin layer of dust. In the crew's quarters, clothing and personal belongings were neatly arranged, as if the sailors expected to return at any moment. The captain's quarters offered no further clarity. The logbook rested on the desk, its last entry dated November 25th, some 10 days earlier. 6:30 a.m., storm abating, all well. Yet all was clearly not well. A closer inspection revealed peculiarities. The compass was smashed. A deep gouge marred the railing, as though struck by some tremendous force. Ropes dangled over the side, as if hastily deployed. But there was no blood, no signs of a struggle, no bodies. The Mary Celeste was a ghost ship. Her passengers and crew vanished without a trace. The Dei Gratia towed the abandoned vessel to Gibraltar, where authorities conducted a thorough investigation. Theories proliferated as officials and sailors alike tried to explain the inexplicable. Some suggested a mutiny. Perhaps the crew had turned on Captain Briggs and escaped in the lifeboat. But why was there no evidence of violence? Why would mutineers abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel? Pirates, too, were proposed as culprits. Yet nothing of value had been taken. The cargo of alcohol, the ship's stores, even the crew's belongings, all were untouched. Nature herself was a suspect. Could a sudden seaquake or rogue wave have caused the crew to panic and abandon ship? But the Mary Celeste showed no structural damage, no waterlogging or signs of a capsizing attempt. A more sinister theory emerged from the sailors' whispers. Some spoke of sea monsters, colossal and ancient beings that lurked in the depths. Others invoked the supernatural, a curse perhaps, or vengeful spirits who had claimed the Mary Celeste and her crew. One hypothesis gained traction: the volatile nature of the cargo itself. The barrels of industrial alcohol could have leaked, filling the hold with highly flammable fumes. Perhaps the crew feared an imminent explosion. They might have launched the lifeboat to escape the danger, tethering it to the ship with a line. But if this were true, why had they not returned once the danger passed? Later inspections revealed that 9 barrels of alcohol were mysteriously empty. Whether the liquid had evaporated or been deliberately removed, no one could say. The Mary Celeste changed hands several times after her ghostly discovery, each owner meeting a streak of misfortune. One captain went bankrupt, another wrecked her off the coast of Haiti in a failed insurance scam, but her legend endured. Sailors crossing the Atlantic spoke in hushed tones of her haunted past. Some claimed to see her specter on moonless nights, a silent silhouette drifting across the waves. Others swore they heard whispers in the wind, faint cries that seemed to call out from another world. The Mary Celeste was more than a mystery, she was a warning. The sea, vast and unforgiving, does not always surrender its secrets. To this day, the disappearance of the Mary Celeste's crew remains unsolved. Theories have come and gone, each failing to explain the full extent of the mystery. In the absence of answers, we are left with questions and a lingering sense of unease. The fate of the Mary Celeste remains one of the most enduring mysteries in maritime history. Despite numerous investigations, no definitive answer has ever been proven. However, several theories, ranging from plausible to wildly speculative, attempt to explain what happened to the ship and her missing crew. For what happened aboard the Mary Celeste in November of 1872 is not just a story of a vanished crew. It is a reminder that the sea holds many mysteries, and some, perhaps, are best left undiscovered. The alcohol theory, leaking fumes causing panic, is widely considered the most plausible explanation. It accounts for the crew's sudden but orderly departure and the lack of physical damage. However, no theory explains everything. Why didn't they take more supplies? Why were they unable to return? The Mary Celeste remains an enigma, a cautionary tale of the sea's boundless power and the fragility of human understanding. Whatever happened aboard, the truth now lies with the ocean, locked away forever.